This is why nothing feels real anymore, and why it had to happen. Carl Jung explained, "There are moments when life loses its shape. You look around and everything feels distant, unreal. People speak to you, but their words pass through you. You eat, walk, work, and exist, but it's like you're watching your life from the outside. This feeling is more common than you think. It's not just burnout, it's not just exhaustion. It's a sign that something deeper is shifting inside of you. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're waking up." But awakening doesn't feel like light. It feels like falling apart. What no one tells you is that transformation begins with a breakdown, a quiet unraveling. The world you built from expectations, survival, and fear begins to dissolve. You stop caring about things that once felt urgent. You question your goals. You withdraw. You become uncomfortable with noise, with crowds, with the roles you used to play so easily. And then comes the question, what's wrong with me? But the real question is, what's trying to emerge? Carl Jung believed that this kind of collapse was not a crisis, but a calling. He called it individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are beneath the masks. It's a dismantling, an undoing, and it begins when your current life can no longer contain your real self. You start to feel disconnected because the life you've been living was never fully aligned with your soul. Your job, your routines, your identity, your image, they begin to crack. And through those cracks, your truth starts to surface. This isn't a malfunction, it's a natural process. But it feels unnatural because we've been trained to fear stillness, to panic in silence, to chase meaning in noise. So when the old structures fall away, when your emotions shut down, when your mind becomes foggy, when nothing feels real, you think something is wrong. But something is actually right. You're exiting the version of life you were told to live, to finally discover the one you were meant for. This stage is called the void. It's not depression. It's not laziness. It's not failure. It's the sacred space between who you were and who you are becoming. In the void, the world feels muted. Food doesn't taste the same. Music doesn't move you. Even your own thoughts seem distant. It's not because you're losing yourself. It's because you're shedding the self that was built to please, perform, and protect. This is not the end. It's the beginning of alignment. But alignment doesn't come through effort. It comes through surrender. And surrender is terrifying. Because when you stop pushing, you're left with stillness. And in stillness, everything buried starts to rise. Memories, patterns, pain, truth. You begin to see what you've ignored. You feel what you've numbed. You hear what you've silenced. That's why the world feels strange. That's why you feel detached. Because you're finally present enough to face what's real. And what's real is often not what you expected. Many people confuse this stage with emotional collapse. They fear it. They medicate it. They try to run from it. But it's the most important stage of your evolution. This is where the noise fades. This is where clarity begins. But clarity doesn't come as answers. It comes as space. Space to question, to rest, to observe, to break old rhythms. You might sleep more. You might crave solitude. You might not want to explain yourself anymore. Let that be okay. You're not withdrawing. You're reorienting. You're not giving up. You're tuning in. Because when nothing feels real, what's actually happening is that only what's real remains. Your false identities begin to fall away. The pressure to prove dissolves. The habits you outgrew collapse. And what's left is quiet, uncomfortable, sacred quiet. In that space, something ancient begins to awaken. Not your mind, not your ego, but yourself. The part of you that never needed approval. The part of you that knows your path, even when you don't. The part of you that whispers truth in moments of silence. You see, your unreality is not a flaw, it's feedback. It's your soul saying, I can't do this version of life anymore. And if you resist it, the feeling will grow. But if you surrender to it, something powerful begins. Your nervous system starts to reset. Your mind begins to clear. Your heart begins to open. You no longer try to be who others want. You start to become who you really are. This is the real work. And it's not visible. It's not glamorous. It's not linear. But it's sacred. You're rebuilding from the inside out. And for a time, that will feel disorienting. Your intuition will feel stronger, but your direction unclear. Your emotions will rise and fall without warning. You'll feel both lost and more alive than ever before. That's part of the process. Don't rush it. The person you're becoming doesn't need to be rushed. They need to be met, slowly, gently, with presence. So when the world feels unreal, take a breath. Place your hand on your chest. Feel your own existence, not the one they shaped for you, but the one rising now, quietly, powerfully, without permission. You're returning, and that's why everything else feels like it's falling apart, because it is, and it has to, for you to rise. And if you're ready to reconnect with your deeper self, there's a simple guide that can help. It's called the Jung method. The link is pinned in the first comment when you feel the time is right. No more pretending. No more carrying what was never yours. No more forcing a life that doesn't feel true. What you're moving through now is sacred, and it's not supposed to be fast. It's supposed to be real. Some days you'll feel like nothing makes sense. Other days you'll catch small glimpses, moments of clarity, of peace, of presence. These are signs. Not that you're healed, but that you're returning to yourself. Because healing isn't a destination, it's a remembering. You might lose interest in explaining your pain. You'll start noticing beauty in silence. You'll stop seeking validation from broken systems. And that too is part of awakening. You're not disappearing. You're becoming invisible to the things that no longer align. You're not numb. You're filtering what doesn't resonate. You're not detached. You're simply not available for illusion anymore. And though it feels lonely, it's not emptiness. It's spaciousness. It's the space where your real life begins. This is where you learn to live with uncertainty. This is where you learn to stop asking for directions from people who've never been where you're going. This is where you learn to walk with your fear and still move forward. What you're feeling right now, this unreality, this quiet chaos, it's your soul whispering, you're getting closer, keep going. You don't have to force clarity. You don't have to rush back to who you used to be. You don't even have to understand everything. You just have to stay present. Sit with the ache. Let the confusion soften. Let the silence grow louder. And listen, your life is not falling apart. It's falling into place in a way you never could have orchestrated. And yes, it had to feel this strange, because nothing new is born without first shedding the old, not just ideas, but versions of you, timelines, attachments, masks, layers. The you that wakes up tomorrow will not be the same one who pressed play on this video. You're changing. You're shifting, and that's the point. Let it be strange. Let it be quiet. Let it take time. Because what's real never needs to be rushed. And while you're in this space between who you were and who you're becoming, you might feel invisible. Not because you don't matter, but because your energy is no longer matching what once mirrored you. The people who don't call back, the plans that fall through, the goals that no longer excite you, they're not failures, they're echoes. Fading. You're not meant to return to what you've outgrown. You're meant to walk forward, even when the road disappears beneath your feet. This discomfort is not the enemy. It's the evidence. You are awakening from a version of life that was never truly yours. You are dissolving illusions, not because they were bad, but because your soul no longer agrees to keep them alive. And that's the real growth, the kind no one claps for, the kind that happens in silence, in solitude, in shadow. Sometimes the only validation you'll have is your own breath, and that's enough. Let the grief come. Grieve what's leaving. Grieve who you thought you'd be. Grieve the timelines you no longer fit. But then, be still, because in that stillness, you'll begin to sense what's next. It won't come as a grand revelation. It won't arrive with trumpets or clarity. It will come in a whisper, a tiny pull toward something simple, something softer, something more alive. Follow that. The books that call to you, the places you feel drawn to, the moments where your body relaxes without explanation. That's how your real life begins again. Not by rebuilding what broke, but by allowing something honest to grow from the emptiness. You don't need to know the destination. You only need to know when something feels aligned, and when it doesn't. This is your compass now. Not rules, not roles, not expectations, but resonance. You'll begin to notice who drains you, who excites your nervous system in all the wrong ways, and who brings you peace without effort. You'll start to move slower, speak less, and mean more. You'll stop chasing answers and start living the questions, because you'll realize the questions were always more alive than the answers. Anyway, this is the quiet revolution. Not one of force, but of remembrance. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. So don't rush the process. Don't try to skip the blur. Don't demand clarity from a soul that's still shedding. You are right on time. And if no one else sees it, if no one else understands this stage, it doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're ahead. Because those who break first are the ones who lead later. Your clarity will return. Your energy will rebuild. Your voice will rise. But none of it needs to happen today. Today, you are allowed to float, to question, to not know, to simply be. Because from here, everything real begins.